Joining me now, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton on all of this. He's been super busy lately, obviously, because here we got Title 42. Biden's expected to nix this coming up in May. And then we have this influx. We keep hearing about caravans that are coming towards the border. And then today, the first bus from the border that was transporting people who entered illegally arrived in nice, beautiful, sunny D.C., right? Just steps away from the Capitol. We got to talk about all of this. First off, sir, it's good to have you. Thank you so much. And how many buses are we anticipating that are going to be going to D.C. from the border?
I think you're going to see a lot. I know that they're preparing like 900 buses, so it could be quite the caravan. Obviously, Biden's been doing this for the last year and 3 months, and now we're going to do the same thing, except that we're sending them in a different direction.
So my next question, because I'm looking at this from kind of like a 10th Amendment commandeering sort of thing, because I would imagine that Texans are paying for the transport of the people who entered illegally to D.C., correct?
That is correct.
Can we get a deduction on our any kind of taxes that we're all paying to the federal government or anything else for the amount of money that Texans are, that we're forced to incur as a result of the federal government's inaction on immigration?
Well, and that's not the only cost. The border wall that we're building, the increased security with our state police and others that we're paying for, it's billions. And I'm looking for the right lawsuit to bring that particular claim on behalf of all Texans. So, and I should mention, April 26th, we'll be in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. We've won all the way up, but the Remain in Mexico program that was instituted by Trump, the Biden administration has been losing and not implementing. We're finally at the final resting place, and hopefully it'll be the final resting place of them violating federal law as it relates to the asylum program.
Yeah, that's insane to think. We're talking to the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. It's insane to think that the argument that the left makes that, in order to be able to go through the asylum process, you have to cross into the country first, and then that's not how that's where you always you go to your embassy or whatever in your country of origin, and that's how that process goes. This situation with the buses, the first bus arrived, and apparently, so the report is that people can get on voluntarily. What prevents, and I kind of know the answer to this question, but you can explain it better than I can. What prevents you or the governor saying, you know what, instead of going to D.C., let's send the buses back across over the border and just take them back to Mexico or wherever?
Yeah, the challenge we have is a case called U.S. v. Arizona, where Supreme Court, during the Obama administration, it was a 5-3 decision. I think Roberts and Kennedy joined 3 of the liberals, and they stopped Arizona from passing laws that would have done what the federal government wasn't doing. Now, I want to get another case. I'm hoping that the legislature, the governor, at some point will do something that the Biden administration sues us over, and we can take that back up, because I think that case was wrongly decided. It cannot be that a governor can't do anything about crime and cartels. I mean, basically, the Biden administration's in business. They're in partnership with the cartels to do this. They're advertising, hey, bring them, we'll take care of it. The cartels are making money. We shouldn't have to let that happen.
That's a good point that you made. We're talking with Ken Paxton. The administration, essentially, whether intended or not, they are working. I mean, it is kind of a partnership with the cartels, because they're making tons of money off of bringing people across the border. Democrats are saying this is the way to conduct immigration. That's a strong accusation.
No, it's true. I mean, I think they're basically in a partnership. It's unstated. It's probably undocumented. But when you're the president of the United States and you announce on day one of your administration, hey, we're not going to deport anybody, and then they violate federal law every way we turn and continue to allow anybody into the country, whether they have COVID, whether they don't have COVID, they don't get tested. We let them in whether they're terrorist crime. We don't know. We don't vet them. The cartels know the deal, right? I mean, the Biden administration has made it very clear. So that's a tacit agreement between parties. The Biden administration is in partnership with the cartels, and they're benefiting from it. Both sides are getting what they want.
Yeah. What gets me, talking with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, what really gets me about this is that this is, and you mentioned Arizona versus U.S., which was exactly what I knew you would be able to explain it better than I could. And that's when, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that was Jan Brewer's big fight when they were trying to stop this illegal entry across their border. They were shut down by Obama Biden. What gets me is that this is a federal program. Essentially, I mean, these are federal regulations, and the federal government is demanding that states and border states are paying this astronomical cost of this. I mean, border states are bearing the biggest part of the burden. And they're telling these states, you have to deal with our inaction. You have to pay for it. You have to staff it. How does that not violate or conflict with like Prince v. U.S., Prince versus United States, which was about a 10th Amendment right? The federal government cannot demand that states pay for and then administer federal programs that the federal government is demanding that they do. Because, I mean, couldn't you argue that that's essentially what's happening here?
Oh, absolutely. I think it is. And by the way, I think we're all border states now. Obviously,
Yeah,
Texas
that's a good point.
suffered greatly, but because of transportation of drugs and transportation of people, and the Biden administration basically taking the handoff from the cartels and then flying them around in the middle of the night. I mean, every state is a border state that the Biden administration says is a border state. So we're all incurring costs. And I cannot imagine that the Supreme Court, with its current makeup, would sit there. We know that 3 of those judges were there at the time, at least 2 of them were there at the time, that made the right decision. I can't imagine, having seen the cost and the loss of lives, whether it's through drug overdoses or COVID, or whether it's through just crime, that they would say, oh yeah, if the Biden or if they want to sit there and allow this to happen despite federal law in opposition to that, they can do it. And states, you can't do anything about it. They can pass laws, abdicate that responsibility, and then you're stuck taking all the negative of it.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. I know you've talked about this before, Attorney General Ken Paxton, the cost that's associated with this. Because when you consider whether it's medical, emergency room visits, when you consider all of the costs that go into this, how much are Texas taxpayers actually on the hook for when it concerns illegal entry?
I think the number, we have direct costs, right? We're spending money on the border, billions, and on the wall, billions. And then we also have the cost, as you said, of healthcare, of law enforcement, of education, because we're required, according to another U.S. Supreme Court case from the 80s, to educate people that come here illegally. So of course people are going to come here. There's no disincentive. Everything is, we'll take care of you, we'll pay for everything. Just get here. And the cartels, they've made this a massive business of human trafficking, which we always thought was a bad thing. Now the Biden administration is not only saying it's not a bad thing, they're empowering them.
And it's amazing that, I mean, well, not really so much with this administration, but there's nothing done with this administration or any South American leadership. I mean, I get that there's a lot of corruption that's taking place in a lot of these governments from these respective countries that people are coming from. But the fact that there isn't any kind of effort at all whatsoever from D.C. to maybe perhaps ease this burden or work with, and it seems like they could work with Mexican leadership. It seems like that might be the best bet, and find out some kind of way to reduce the influx and the burden at the border. Because I know you've seen this before, Border Patrol agents, the amount of land that they have to cover, and nobody wants to take that job. It's under people, they're accused of horrible things, even though they're predominantly Hispanic. They're called racist or white adjacent or everything else, that they're whipping people with horse reins. I mean, I feel so badly for people who live and for people who work at the border. What can be done? I mean, if the federal government's not going to do anything, what power does Texas have? So
we're limited, and I think we have to keep filing these lawsuits. We're working our way up, but we're getting our first one to the U.S. Supreme Court. I think that's going to matter. He has to re-implement this asylum program where you can't just come in and claim asylum and disappear. That's going to be effective in reducing some of the numbers. But you're right. I mean, working with Mexico, we may have to do it ourselves. That was effective under the Trump administration. And all of these things that were in place, because we know it was effective, because the numbers from the Obama administration went way down under Trump. And then when Biden took them all away, the numbers went up 300%. So we know those things work, and they know that these things work. And so that's the reality.
I was happy to see people like Henry Cuellar and some of these other Democrats out there who are at the border really, cross that bridge and work with Republicans, because they could see the damage that was being done. And they were also having a lot of faith lost in them by the people they were representing. But I think Cuellar's gone quiet for a while. And I don't know if that's because I know he's up for re-election. I think he's in a tough battle against some squad-backed opponent. Are there any Democrats that you're looking to forge partnerships with to maybe, or maybe that you have partnerships with at this point?
Well, I think they're scared. I think part of the reason they're scared is what happened to Cuellar. Suddenly, the FBI was investigating him as soon as he started speaking out about this. Suddenly, he was maybe
that's why they missed this guy up in New York, because they were too busy doing all this other stuff.
That's the reality. I mean, I think if you speak out, they come after you, and I think the message has been sent to Cuellar: you better shut up,
wow.
or we're going to. That's how things work today.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I mean, it's like it's worse now. Is it worse now under this administration than it was under Obama Biden? Because it was really bad under Obama Biden. And I mean, give us some perspective.
It was pretty. Obama set this up. I mean, he set the tenor of this whole thing of presidents don't have to follow the law. We don't have to follow the Constitution. Moving more towards an oligarchy or a dictatorship away from constitutional republic. Biden has sped that up, but I think largely because Biden didn't know what's going on, but his people do, and they're willing to sacrifice his approval ratings because he doesn't know what his approval ratings are, and they're willing to sacrifice those approval ratings because he's the guy, right? They're going to just let him take the hit for all of this.
Yeah. I'm wondering, last question for you. We're talking with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. I'm curious if Democrats would be more receptive, perhaps, to controlling illegal entry at the border if, since Texas's hands are tied pending litigation, if Republicans started going down there like they were going to gas stations and registering people to vote at gas stations. I mean, hey, if that's how we're going to do it, why not send teams of Republicans down to the border, down to Del Rio, down to RGV, and just start registering people to vote? Republican, of course.
Well, you know what? We are at a disadvantage, as you say, because we are limited by the truth, the law, and decency. And at times, it doesn't seem like the other side is limited by any one of those three. And the reason we're limited, we really actually care about doing it the right way. And the Constitution, if we ignore it like they do, means if we don't, no one believes in the Constitution, we're not a free country. So they have more tools at their discretion because they're willing to do things we won't do because they're wrong.
I will have to say I'm totally willing to go and register people to vote Republican. I mean, you're being the better angel here. I'm not. I'm telling you what I'm willing to do. I'll play dirty. It's all right. I will not break any law. I just realized I'm talking to the top cop in the Republic. Totally lawful behavior, sir.
No, I have to swear to uphold the Constitution. It's one of my jobs.
And as I say this facetiously, but yes, and that's what makes us different because a republic is only as strong as the observance of the law of the land. And so that's what makes us different. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, sir, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.